roll it back. In the package are some pictures that Kirk took. I've been in contact with Ken Ward, building inspectors, several times over this. And so I just want to hear from Kirk and Larry. And do I have it correct? This is just basically a request for occupancy permit for Swirls?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. All right, Larry?
I went to the site today. I reviewed the certificate of vote and plans earlier in the week, and went to the site today and went through the conditions and just handed out a handwritten note of what I found, which isn't very good. We got a lot of conditions in 4 that have not been done, which were to have been done within 6 to 12 months, various time frames of the certificate of vote, which is now about 2 years old. So
What wasn't done?
past it.
You have a copy for me?
Thank you.
So if you look at
What does the first one say? It says not
Has
found?
not been approved to be a problem.
parking has not been.
First one is good.
I'll just go
Sure.
through.
I'm sorry.
Parking
No,
has
let him go
I'm
through
sorry,
this,
I
you're gonna get a
apologize.
chance to
Yeah.
respond, but on the other hand, also, just to put this in context, I think that, you can always get an update as to what is done, what is not done, anytime through the planner or the building inspector, make the request, so everything isn't at the last minute. This permit's been open for 2 years. Okay, so that's what I'm saying. I want to make it clear right off the bat that the burden is on the developer and the owner. Okay, so we're actually going through this process, I think, to just be as a courtesy. Normally, it's done through the department. Okay, so this is not going to be a debate, is what I'm saying. This is an informational meeting, but not a debate. Okay, sorry, Larry.
4A and 4B, those, if you go right to condition number 4, that was pretty much the mechanical stuff that was conditions to be done on certain anniversaries or time frame. 4A and 4B pertain to the parking, and we did not put out a 3, 6, or 9, or 12 month review because parking, by my observations, had never been a problem there. So we never followed through because there was no need for either the planning board to look into it any further or for the owner and applicant to make the improvements primarily to the rear of the parking that were required in section 4B of the certificate of vote. Section 4C required the developer within 12 months to provide concrete pads and fence enclosures for the site dumpsters that are in the back of the site. That's not done. 4D required the developer to modify 2 existing catch basins to convert them to manholes and to install 2 additional catch basins that would go to those manholes to be done within 6 months of the day of approval. It's not done. 4E, all the paint striping was required to be done prior to the occupancy permit in 2012, and that was all done in 2012. I just made a note that some of it is wearing thin. 4F was required as far as landscaping, the plantings to be done within 6 months of the approval, and none of it's done. 4G was a guardrail along the northerly sideline of the property to be done within 6 months of the date of the approval. There's no guardrail, but if you look at the plans closely, there's also a note 12 that says they could have built a boulder retaining wall and provided a 2-foot reveal there on the boulder retaining wall, but that wasn't done either. So neither the boulder wall or the guardrail is done.
You mean as an alternative to the guardrail?
Yeah, that was an alternative. Item number 6, or condition number 6, was a requirement to submit operation and maintenance reports to the planning office. And I have not received any, so I'm presuming that that is not done, but perhaps Kurt can reflect on that. Additionally, although not part of the certificate of vote conditions, but the southerlymost light is, apparently was knocked out, it's not in, the base is in, but the light is not erected on the base. The pavement condition near the front entrance is pretty poor. The guardrail in the center of the entrance exit drive has been hit. It looks like it's pretty well bent up, should be replaced. The handicap ramps in the front are removed from one another and are removed from the actual ramps. The parking spaces are displaced from the ramps, and I think that should be looked into. And finally, we were advised of a drainage issue between Yankee Pine and this site, and there is a catch basin out there that I think might work, and I would just suggest that Gels and Yankee Pine get together, engage an engineer, try to solve the problem, because it's a nuisance to both properties. That's the summary of mine.
And also, that's something, if you want someone to help out in that regard, Kirk can also, go out on site with you, unless you just want to do that with John Roush. And what's the owner? The owner called you?
Yeah, I talked to you.
Yeah.
Can I say something? When you had asked me if it
Can I
was...
just for the sake,
I'm
because
sorry.
we're on TV,
Oh,
your name and just,
sorry,
Here.
I'm Shelley Gabriello, and we're opening Frozen Swirls. And when you would call me and ask me if it was Gels LLC, I was mistaken, where we are actually Frozen Swirls LLC. So
Okay.
does that alleviate any of the occupancy permit issues at all? Because,
No.
Because of the way,
It's issued to Gels, and they're to come before the board before they allow any modified use.
okay, so,
Yeah, so I might need a little bit of explaining. but,
just, if you back up, Chris is exactly right. I think there was a little, there was some urgency to help, so that everything didn't have to be done at once, also for financial reasons also. This planning board was trying to assist you guys to get some cash flow and get somebody in there, so everything didn't have to be done. But in return for that, it was very clear through our consulting engineer, our planner, and this board, that there were phased-in conditions that were the responsibility of owners, of the landlords, so to speak, okay? And the owners. And that's what we're going through tonight. And as Mr. Thornton pointed out, that we're really not talking about tenants here. We're talking about owners who, regardless of who they put in as tenants,
Yeah.
have certain conditions that they have to meet over time. And I think the board has been lenient and has been in contact with the building inspector, and has also been somewhat understanding. But now we're at this rush last minute, which really was needless. Okay? We haven't gone anywhere.
Yeah.
So I just want to make you clarify, you folks are the landlord, not the tenant.
Well,
My
my
husband-
brother and my brother-in-law and myself own the building.
Okay.
We bought the building, I think it was 2 or 3 years ago, right before Tapatia. And we've been slowly renovating the property. I don't know if you remember what it used to look like, but we're slowly renovating the property. And it's expensive, okay? So
and
things
it
like...
has been improved greatly since
I
we
agree.
purchased it and taken it over. I think it's improved visually on Route 1. I mean, we made it a beautiful building, and the parking lot greatly improved since
Yeah,
we bought it.
we've patched that parking lot, and we've striped it, like you folks asked.
Plantings.
We've put plantings in the front of the building. I don't know if you saw that.
Remember I said, excuse me, in all due respect, I
Yeah.
mean, we're clarifying this. This is out there.
I'm not
I'm
debating
really
it.
not-
You
No,
said
we're not
you didn't want to
debating
debate.
I know,
I'm
if
just-
you have a comment on any of these
Oh.
here, you can prepare, I mean, do you disagree with anything that either Kirk Baker or Larry Graham, the consulting engineer, went out there, an experienced consulting engineer, I'm not gonna go through these piece by piece and debate whether they're half done, done, or this and that. I totally agree, the property has been greatly improved. But some of these are conditions that have to do with drainage, conditions that have to do with flow into adjacent waterways. And these are things normally that would need to be done before you would even be able to get a building permit. 2 years later, in deference to the financial situation, this planning board went out of its way to phase these in over time.
I just want to say something.
It is the,
A lot of these things I don't remember, because my brother-in-law has been coming to the meeting. He's the builder. I'm not a builder. I don't have anything to do with building. I don't know anything about building. So as far as these conditions, a lot of them I don't even understand. I'm sure we were told about it, and we're trying to accumulate some money, but at the end of the day, we've had some tenants that have left the building.
mhm.
It's all a matter of dollars and cents. I know what you want, you just wrote it out for me, but if I physically and financially can't afford to do it, to write down that the guardrail is in disrepair, somebody hits it, I'm sure when we put a new one up there, it's gonna get hit again. The pavement, we've patched it, we put plantings, I'm not debating you like you asked me not to, but I think what I'm saying is, as far as a landlord goes, we're probably the best landlord that building's had in a long time, and we're slowly improving it. We put lights in the parking lot, we put lights on the exterior, we fixed up the sign, we have, we've done many, many things.
We just bought a new light. Was that the one that they're talking
I'm
about?
not sure,
or just
but
has it been installed?
we're doing, as the money comes in, we're putting it into the building.
It's important, I can tell you right now, that I cannot recommend to the building inspector, we can, if you come forth next meeting, or work with the planner, and you say exactly what's going to be done when, this board will consider it. But, for example, the light pole fell over, I don't know if it's back up, that's a safety issue, that alone.
Well, I
Precludes.
disagree with that, I'm gonna tell you why.
Well, I'm just saying, you can't,
I'm gonna
that
tell
was
you
on the
why.
plan. You would need, if you want relief from that, you need to come in front of the
I don't want
board.
relief. I don't want relief. But I disagree with what you just said, because first of all, we put those lights on. We put those lights in the parking lot. They used to be on the building. There was 2 lights in the building. And what we did was we trenched the whole parking lot and we put 3 poles.
I understand. This was on the plan, this was on the agreed upon, approved plan. So what I think you need to do.
Can I finish?
No, because we're gonna go on. I'm not gonna get into this
All I'm
debate.
saying is that you asked me to put the light up, and I did. Somebody hit it. I'm not trying to not do what you've asked me to do. What I'm saying to you is, that light was hit. We trenched it, we fixed it, we had TW Excavating come in and put a new cement pad,
Right.
new electrical. Well, let me finish, so you understand what's happening, so you don't think I'm not taking care of my
We're being negligent
responsibility.
in any way. And to
Okay.
prevent
Let me
occupancy,
finish. Somebody hit the post before we put the light on the post again. We have a brand new post that's inside the building, ready to go on to the cement pad. Somebody hit it and it can't be used. It has to be taken out and redone again.
Then simply communicate that to the office
Well,
as to where
I
you're
didn't
at.
know, I didn't know that that was part of swirls. I didn't know that, I mean, it's not like,
That's
Part
part,
of any occupancy was to come back before us in order to determine the usage and the parking requirements. And we went through this. All of this has been written up. This is not a verbal transmission to your partner. It's been written up in a agreement. They gave you extra time before. I mean, if you want to argue about it.
I don't want to argue. I don't want to argue. I'm
Should have
just letting
said
you
you
know.
have to do it at the first time around and then.
I don't want to argue about it because
okay,
it's not
I
like I
think,
don't want to do it. I want to do it.
okay, you need to come up with a plan, you need to talk to Mr. Silver. As you said, you're not a builder, I'm not going to get into the ownership structure, this and that. The the permit is very clear, the permit's out there, you've had it in your professional possession for 2 years. It's been approved. All you have to do is comply with the provisions of the permit. If there's any kind of hardship or something like that, communicate it to the office, say what you're going to do, when, so that there can be some assurance that this work will get finished in some kind of due fashion, at some kind of date, and some kind of prioritization. That's not for us to do for you. Okay, and that's
Would
the
agree.
and that's the end of the story.
Yeah.
You can debate, it's very clear, it's been out there, people can read, you're professionals, and that's it. And we will be communicating with the building inspector as well. Does anybody else have any comments?
Only that, I mean, I understand your frustration with wanting to get this resolved right away. And I think it's important to look over the certificate of vote that was decided 2 years ago, because that's where we're coming up with this idea that you agreed that you'd come before the planning board to get any subsequent occupancy permits issued. So that's where, that really is the governing contract that we're looking to.
Could you clarify that for me? Because I'm not.
Well, I mean,
I
I'm
guess
sure you should have a copy of it.
I could read it myself, I
You
guess.
know what?
The
I have it in my
certificate of
email,
vote
so be my guest. but,
indicates that there has to be a site review
That really
before
is
the
your roadmap,
occupancy
all right?
permit.
And though Larry pointed out a few other things, and, just from my own personal experience, that entranceway is dangerous. So that, not that, it's not a condition, I don't know how it was ever not made an issue, but entering that parking lot, especially in the dark or in the snow, is a hazard, I think. You've got to do something with that guardrail bumper out front. But beyond that, I think Curtis is right. If you can come up with a plan of attack, I think we should consider it. But
I'm totally reasonable, but
yeah.
I'm not going to do it right now at 5 of 8, when the burden, again, is on your team. Can look at this. We have professionals in place who are willing to work with you. This that sign for yogurt, I believe, has been up a year. I've seen coming soon, isn't it? Hasn't it been up over a year?
yeah.
When do they want to open?
Tomorrow.
Tomorrow?
And can I say that, I know the wording in the certificate of vote says that a site review needs to be done through occupancy, before an occupancy permit. I spoke to the builder, my brother-in-law, and he, in his mind, feels like this has all been taken care of. He thinks he came to these meetings 3 times. He says that this has been rectified. So that's what he's telling me. Now, wait, can I just?
I can't take any more time in this. I'm not gonna go through this again, in all due respect.
All right, can I just say one thing then, too? The
This is
wording in this
clear.
contract, it's clear. No one, in 2 years, you guys have not called us and said, or called my husband or someone and said, oh, by the way, these
It's
stipulations
not our
have not.
responsibility.
So you wait until someone receives a building permit that you guys approve, lets me put hundreds of thousands of dollars
I'm
into a
not
business,
going
and then
into this
says to me,
discussion.
we can't go into
All right,
occupancy.
we have
So-
another agenda item. This is what I wanted to avoid. You guys
It's
are
all right.
professionals. and
Very
it's been-
professional, but I'm sorry
And we're
that.
gonna work with you in every way
We
possible.
want to work with you too, but now you're telling me that, what do we have to go to another meeting, then talk to people? Are you delaying our occupancy, our?
I'm not delaying
opening?
any, we're not delaying
You're saying, I'm
anything.
not doing it today, so now you have to go to another
We're
meeting.
actually enforcing something that's been out there for 2 years.
And you wait till our building
We
is
didn't wait at
built.
all.
We didn't wait at all.
You allowed a building permit, that should
Again,
have
and all
addressed, if you did this to us before we obtained our building permit for building swirls, there's a building permit in my building, in my space, that
I
has
don't-
been signed off.
That's not really a related.
It's not
item.
related to allow to build a property and
You
then
cannot-
come back and say, by the way,
Look,
we don't think the parking's
many people,
appropriate.
we
It's
have.
not a correct system. The sequence is not professional or logical.
and-
Actually,
And actually, it is quite.
Isn't, you should allow site review before you issue a building permit,
I-
not when we're built and ready to occupy. That's how I feel, and I think
Well,
that's
thank you. I
logic.
appreciate your opinion, and
It's
these
logic.
documents have been out there. We have professional help.
This is
Larry Graham.
actually-
I'm willing, and Max knows that. I have a lot of experience in this regard, working with other towns, working with tenants and landlords. I'm not gonna get into that, but a lot of experience. And I'm not gonna even mention how that relates to this, because that's really not relevant. We have, go ahead.
I just want to point out, this is not site review, this is a compliance check.
Yeah.
But-
That's the
Could
difference.
you help me understand?
I don't,
Thank you,
I'm not
Kurt,
gonna,
for
yeah, I'm
pointing
just
that out.
pointing that
That's-
out.
Oh,
I just wanted
thank
to-
you. I
It's a
appreciate
very
it.
important point.
Is it,
Yeah.
could you
Is the
guys
yo-
tell us?
is the yoga place going to be your operation, or is it, do you have a
Yeah,
tenant?
my wife and I.
Fine.
Okay, so it's,
We can't find tenants. We
So we're trying to do anything to generate money and, you know,
well, and that's
improve
where I,
the neighborhood.
we got to, as a board, be friendly to business coming in. So I don't want you to walk out of here thinking that you're not going to get things done in this town. I don't, mean to diminish what you were trying to say there, but there is a contract, and at any point in the last 2 years, you could have been reviewing, not, you know.
We didn't know.
I
We didn't
understand,
know
but
this
you're an
list
owner of Gels Corporation,
planting.
so,
We thought we
and
were
it's a permit that you
accommodated
obtained,
everything.
so it's in there, and, you
Well,
know.
here's the thing.
Not to, you know, create a problem, but you agreed that you'd come back, Gels Corporation, which, you know, is your alter ego when you, whether it's your
It is.
brother-in-law or yourself.
No, I'm gonna take responsibility, but I'm not a builder, but let me just say this, that, the reason that we came here today, I was under the impression that we were discussing the opening of swirls.
Sure.
That was my interpretation of this meeting.
So that's, it's
It's
just
the
not.
last step,
It's
the
not.
occupancy
It's
permit.
it's a compliance check before we can consider issuing an occupancy
I
permit.
think it's been very clear from the building inspectional departments that, who work with us closely, that this condition has to be met before you can get your occupancy permit. And
What condition is that?
any of the,
All of those?
Yeah.
Where you have in your hand.
All of these conditions?
and that's something that has nothing to do with the planning board after it leaves this office. The burden is on the developer. If there is any kind of issues in terms of timing, money, what you plan to do, you simply need to communicate it with the office, and we're very accommodating. We have been flexible. However, we are not required to be flexible, but we are required to work with other boards for any of these permits that were given. Every other board in town was able to collaborate and be part of this decision. Fire, health, so on and so forth. We have professional help that hasn't gone anywhere, that you could have talked to at any point. I can say right now, the burden by state law is on the developer and not on us. And we have bent over backwards. I know you don't agree. And we
I
are.
don't agree.
And I will say.
I don't-
2 years, you
I don't know
said
if
you
I-
started
In fact,
the
I
design,
can
and
tell
no
you-
one's addressed these issues.
It's not our responsibility.
Well, Kurt, I think if
I
I,
don't understand, if you would give a building permit, you know that a building is being built,
And
a
so-
store is
so when
being
you-
built, it says yogurt store.
Well,
It was signed
But that
last
gives you
year.
time
It
to.
says yogurt shop is going in here, so wouldn't you say at that point,
So-
you have to fix this before we give you the building permit? And then we would like say, all right, let's see how much this will cost, would it be worth it? But no, you gave us the building permit, go ahead and build, we built, and now you're telling us, no.
You have a team
The-
in place that has these documents for 2 years.
The documents don't
Well,
say
we don't
you
have a
have
team.
to.
We have me and my wife.
You don't have an owner? You're an owner? Are you an owner?
Yeah,
Oh,
but you
yeah,
call
so
it
we're
a
the
team.
team.
It sounds like, you know,
No, but if you're an owner.
my wife and I
So
own.
this team-
If you're an owner of the building, you're responsible for the
And we've
permits and the
been
conditions.
very, in good faith, and we have done
I
a
just
very
want-
good job.
I just wanna
You're
make
making it
sure-
sound
I
like
wanna
we're
make sure
negligent
the
with
whole
that
board
beautiful
understands.
property
Yeah.
that we have made beautiful.
Do you folks disagree that we're constantly improving that building? Maybe we haven't
I'm
done.
not gonna go through this again.
well,
I don't know what you-
I just want to clarify something, because you said something, Kurt, that I'm not sure exactly what you meant, but are you saying, I think I heard you say that you want a commitment from them to do all of these things, and you want them,
I'm just saying if there's any hardship, I would
and
like
you want
to.
them to prioritize things.
And the other thing too is, Kurt, every time I try to explain myself,
I mean-
you don't wanna listen.
That's
Well,
not true.
Well,
I just-
it's
can
right
I-
there.
can I
I
just
listened
say
for
something?
half an hour.
Can I just say something, as just one member of the board, if you gave us that kind of a commitment and prioritized when things are gonna be done, and perhaps done some of the more important things, you know, very quickly, I would be willing to authorize the permit prior to the completion of all of the items, because I know you're gonna be trying to get other tenants in there, of course you are, so and I think now you realize that everything has to be done before tenants move in. So I'm willing to be a little bit flexible, I don't know, I'm not sure.
Well, yeah, I would just like to see you communicate with the office and not play a blame game to the office. That, to me.
I don't think,
That,
Kurt,
that to me.
I think you're
Okay,
not
I'm just
understanding.
saying,
I have
the
never
whole
blamed
idea of a
anybody.
building permit being issued, okay? The building permit being issued, okay, is not predicated on you getting a permit for use of the property and to update the property. That permit, you went through the process, you received a permit with conditions. These conditions are perpetual, these conditions go along with the property and are expected to be finished. We are not an enforcement board, we're a permitting board, according to Mass state law. And what Cliff says, but we have some flexibility within that. In fact, we can even amend these things. if we take a vote and do such. I mean,
Right.
to help you. But the point is to come in and to excoriate the planner and the building department on something that is clearly the burden
Did you do that?
of,
They seem to,
I'm just
because they
saying.
were saying that
Well,
for
excoriate
2
the
years,
plan-
we have not been advising them
I
or
don't think
telling
anyone's done
them.
that.
And,
there has been a little bit of heatedness, but the point is,
Kirk, have
and
we had
some-
heated discussions?
maybe,
No,
maybe
I-
frustration.
Have you had a heat
Maybe
discussion?
exhibited
I thought
I
we had
think
great
it's your
communication.
interpretation.
I had a great communication with Frank,
I
I
think-
had a
I
great
think-
communication
I think
with you,
you're
I think
imagining
Ken
that.
is great, I don't
Well,
understand, you know,
Can
I
I
feel
just
this
circle,
is.
can I circle back that the responsibility and burden is on the owner by
Yeah.
law?
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah.
Right.
I agree. I'm not
That's
trying to
it.
pass
That's
that
the
on.
end. That's it.
I don't know what's going on, but I don't hear you disagreeing with that
Yeah.
tonight.
I don't disagree with what you're saying. Every time I try to speak,
I
you
know
don't have
like-
time to listen. I don't want to listen. I don't want to hear it.
That's-
I don't want to
I'm
get
feeling
into
that
it.
too, so it's something
This is
between.
clear.
It's unfortunate how this is all going, but I know when you come back, you know, if we can
So when
settle
are we
on
coming
getting
back,
get
when's
the
the next
plan
meeting,
together.
what's the steps now that we have to do? I'm unclear on what
Well,
the steps
what
are.
we need to
Yeah, you
do.
shouldn't be. I don't mean to cut you off, but don't tell me at this point you're unclear what needs to be done. There's
These
conditions
need-
outlined.
Yeah, these conditions are 2 years old, and we,
And
I
it's
know that
2
we are
years.
working
Dude.
on,
We basically need a plan and a commitment for you to do everything that you're required to do, and all the things that aren't done are listed in that piece of paper, so
yeah.
you
And I-
need to
We're
look at
gonna
them,
need more specific
figure out how
information.
soon how you can do
Plantings
these
is
things,
not
how
clear.
soon it's gonna take, prioritize them, because, I think we understand it can't all be done tomorrow,
Thank you.
and give us that plan.
Thank you. And by the way, I
Shelley,
also
they're on
want to
your
say that.
approved plans. You have a landscape plan on your approved.
Yeah, everything is in the
Yeah,
existing
I agree.
paperwork.
I agree. I also want to
You
say
can
that
lay them
every
on
time
the
that I've
table.
come,
they're written.
and asked for something, or my wife has come and asked for something, it's pretty, everybody's pretty, willing to help. Just like you said earlier, we're willing to help. So I'm not sure what you're upset about, because you're coming across like
Because
you're
we,
upset.
because we helped 2 years ago, okay? Very much so. I personally pushed this board and had a 3-2 vote. And this was not a unanimous vote, because I wanted you to be able to get the restaurant in that had worked so hard, had sunk so much money in, which was your anchor tenant, okay? Because I do believe in business coming to Raleigh. I bend over, I think the board would agree, I bend over backwards. Okay, but 2 years later, to have anyone come in and have a debate.
I think
I'm
the
just
problem
saying,
is
2
that
years
you
later-
make, you're
You make
making
it
it sound like we
seem
haven't done
we
anything in
haven't
2
done
years,
it.
and I
Wait,
disagree with what you're
That's how
saying.
That's
You're
how it's
arguing-
coming across.
We're-
2 years,
we're
do you
getting
see
caught
the
up with-
transformation?
Yeah, we're
What
catching up
happened?
on the list. And by the
You're
way, was this
pinpointing
the
tiny
whole
things.
list from 2 years ago?
Yeah.
No, that wasn't the whole list.
That's the order of conditions the board signed.
And all the
sorry.
plans
You
that-
said you
Just-
just
just-
drove there and
I
took
just wanna
notes.
clarify.
That's what you just said.
I wanna
So these
clarify.
notes are not from 2 years
Excuse me,
ago.
ma'am, that is a summary of what's in that condition, certificate of vote that I hand wrote today.
I
Compare-
agree. You did
compare
handwrite it
for
out today,
A,
but what I'm
B, C,
saying
D,
is,
E.
we haven't done anything that was asked of us from the beginning to now.
I don't think we're saying that.
Not the conditions.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm
all-
saying. We've been working slowly on getting it done, is what I'm saying.
I think what you've told the board is that you've done a lot of things within the building, which have made the building look very nice from Route 1, as you said. And those things were options that you did. The marching orders that you got from the board and the certificate of vote, those conditions were your obligations to satisfy the board. And that's what we're looking at.
And you
tonight.
agreed to them.
I agree still.
Would you guys have,
But what I'm saying is that we had a longer list than this, and we've been slowly knocking it off. Don't make it sound,
Well, you didn't have that list from either myself or the planning board, because that's the only one that was ever generated 2 years ago.
you guys asked us to pave the parking lot, fix the parking lot, and pave it. We did.
And-
You asked us to put some plantings. We did.
Well, the paving the parking lot is mentioned as, I think, for one of those.
It's just
and
on the
been
list.
done.
It's
been
we
done.
did.
Yeah,
And by
we're
the
not
way,
saying nothing's been done.
sorry.
We're not saying nothing has been done.
Oh, because that's the
And we're not
impression.
saying, we're not saying that you haven't made an improvement.
And we're
Well-
gonna continue improving. We're gonna
Right.
continue
When you
improving.
came to
You know,
the-
the guardrail,
But it's just,
that is on our
it's just
list.
that we expect developers to do everything they're required to do. And sometimes we cut them a little slack in terms of when they complete the improvements. But but they
I
need to
wanna-
have
I
to be
wanna-
done, and it's
You-
been 2 years since we approved your project, so.
Yes, and I agree with that, but I think what I'm trying to say is that I don't think our timetables, you guys are on the same timetable as us. I think you wanted it done before Swirls opened, and I think what I'm trying to say is that we continually work on the building, we pick and choose where to spend the money, but we're constantly pouring money into that building. You said something about a parking lot.
What does that condition say?
Which one?
It says come before the planning board before any additional certificates of occupancy. And the building department
Is this
is
the
also.
handwritten note, or is this?
No,
It's in the certificate of
What is this
vote.
about handwritten? The only reason this is handwritten is that Mr. Grant did his inspection just prior to this meeting. This will be converted by our planner into a part of the record in a memo. Okay, so this is handwritten as temporary just for the.
I was asking for clarification, which paper you were talking about.
The one in your hand. The one that you've had for 2 years.
Approval.
He's too
You're,
intentional.
yeah, you're,
too
something
Okay.
has
I
happened
know
here,
you
and I'm
must
not
have
really
somewhere
sure
to
what's
go.
going on.
I mean, we had
I'm not
places
sure
to
what's
go
going on.
too.
Let me just-
These are the papers that I have.
Maybe that we can,
The email you sent to me?
No, hold on, the planner, Max, the
And
planner
then
is
you-
talking, please.
Okay, I was just saying, maybe if we concentrate on the process, and if you're willing to actually address the things that are in the certificate of vote, maybe over the next year, and I'm not saying that it has to be a year, maybe 6 months or whatever, and then negotiate possibly on like what we'd be willing, or what the board might be willing to, in terms of offering for the occupancy permit. But maybe let's put those in priority on a list, and then maybe you go home and look at them, prioritize them, and then we can come back later and discuss
In a forum
What-
like this?
a schedule for getting these things done, maybe over a period of 6 months or to a year, depending on.
Well, that's what I was thinking of.
Yeah.
Is a recognition that these have to be done, recognition on your part that these have to be done,
I
and
agree.
an
They
indication
need to
of
be
when
done.
you're going to do
They
them.
need to be done.
Concentrating on the most serious
Well,
ones first.
Yeah, and I think that's a great way of prioritizing as well, get the ones that are in need done first, so I have no problem with that.
Okay.
That's what I've been doing.
Or what you feel, if money is an issue, or what you feel, I think it's important that if you have co-owners, or you still have that ownership team in place, or I don't really know, that's really not our responsibility, but it was issued to Gels Group, which at that time Scott Silva was the builder. You were a partner, because you were in on it too at that time.
Yeah, that hasn't changed.
But I'm saying that if that's the case, then you need to sit down internally and figure this out as to, because my position as chairman, that all of this should be done. If there is an issue, as you had mentioned, in terms of what you can do and what you can afford based on not having tenants or this and that cash flow, then you need to say, what am I going to do and when?
Yeah, and I can answer that now or
No,
later.
No.
So
But you have to remember that we went through the same discussion 2 years ago, and that we were being generous about the timing of certain things being done, so that you could get the restaurant open, and it's been 2 years, and some of these things have not been done. So I would be hesitant to keep extending this if nobody's gonna take these things seriously.
Right.
Or even take the responsibility. I take
offense that I take great offense because if you think that I'm not being responsible, well, you're speaking and I can't.
Go ahead. I said there'd be no debate, and you're still debating.
Well, that's what you're doing.
But
I
the
think
game's
you're
on, right?
debating.
Is there a game today? Because I can tell
No,
you're
there's nothing
dying to
to do
get
with
to
it.
that. Um,
We have
he
a number
takes
of other,
great-
Jesus.
we have a number of other items tonight.
I
We're actually
understand
off
that, but you
agenda.
know what? We came here tonight, we had to wait,
It
and
has
we,
nothing to do with the game.
because I know, he keeps
Believe
looking
me,
at
I'm
the
sure we're
phone.
gonna watch.
What are we
it.
here
No,
for?
it's just that
Is it that
So-
you just want to
John
talk?
Moore-
You
Best
don't want me to
case-
talk?
best case
We have
scenario.
another engineer who's waiting for our time.
I know, all right, well, we're gonna
I mean,
finish
it'll
this
be a
up.
lot smoother for him,
Best,
but I
best
guess
case
what-
scenario, so obviously, we're gonna look at the list and address it as we have in the past, as we have done everything in good faith to this date. What is the best case scenario? Am I supposed to speak to you with Max and Scott? They say, give you a time frame of how they're gonna do it. Then do I have to wait for another beautiful meeting like this to delay our occupancy permit even further? What is
Because, see,
what
at
is
the
the
end of
delay
At
here?
the end of the day,
I want the best
Excuse
case
me, I'm
scenario.
gonna tell you what it is right now, and then I'm gonna go on to the next agenda
Fine,
item as
yeah.
chairman. So I'm gonna table this right now. contact Kirk Baker, our planner,
Yes,
who is in constant contact with Ken Moore, our building inspector, as well as any of the board members, as well as Larry Graham,
yes,
okay, and as well as with you. He will convert this into a formalized memo. If you have any questions as to, really the burden is on you to figure out, these, as Mr. Pierce, the vice chairman mentioned, all need to be done before this board can act. If the board chooses to do differently, that's not up to me, that is up to a motion by any member who can do such, based on a discussion they can have with me.
I'm willing to give you
Yeah.
some relief,
Yeah.
temporary relief, but again, I want to see a recognition and a timetable.
can we do that? I can meet with my brother-in-law tonight, can we do that tomorrow? I
Yeah,
don't
mean,
wanna
we
wait
probably
2
need,
weeks.
You gotta wait.
Well, you have to wait 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Why?
it's-
Because
You
we
have to
have
get
to-
on the agenda and be in front of us
And we
again.
have to advertise.
And we have to
it.
take a vote.
it's
So
always
he
gonna
can't
be-
hand you the paper, you guys email each other and see
I
what he
just told you how
says?
it's going
That
to
would be
happen.
against the
That's
law.
how it's- that's
That would
against the
actually
law.
be against the law for us to
They
do
can't
that.
take action without posting
Meeting.
a meeting.
So I
This-
knew
this
about
is a
this meeting
recorded-
2 weeks ago. We couldn't get this list 2 weeks ago and say, Shelley, you know
Okay,
what?
this is the-
This is what the occupancy permit is gonna be
Thank you,
based
Shelley,
on.
thank you, Max. We'll see you next meeting.
Rowley is not friendly to new business, and that is the truth.
John?
Come on, Max, let's go.
Well, we'll discuss, let's, everybody.
Kirk,
cool,
I'm
we'll
furious. We
I
could
know,
have gotten
let's
that,
just
that
take some
handwritten
time.
list
We'll
2 weeks
discuss.
ago, and I would have had the information here,
Yeah.
and then we would have been all set.
The list was made today, you gotta recommend.
The list was made today, exactly,
Let's-
but you knew about this a month
The
ago.
list doesn't,
Conditions were 2 years ago, man.
right.
Oh,
You knew about
So,
it.
I knew
so you
about it
guys-
2
this
years ago.
handwritten
I think
list
the way-
is-
Two
I
years
think
ago,
what
I knew about
you
it.
guys are trying to say is that you knew that we were kind of in a rush to open up the
Yeah.
yogurt store.
Yeah.
And now you're putting this in front of us.
What are you putting
No.
words in? Wrong,
Wrong.
wrong,
I think what he's trying to say is,
wrong.
2 years
Totally
ago, they made some accommodations.
And you had
And
resentment,
they,
and now
and they
you're
put
taking it on
some,
us.
they gave themselves some leverage by saying, before you can expand further, you just need to meet these benchmarks. And when you come in for a permit for additional use, at that point, we'll check your benchmarks, and that's what we're doing.
Yeah.
But,
So
but there's
let's-
no disrespect, and please, don't, characterize us as not being business friendly. I mean,
Well, you gotta
I
understand,
take
you
it
gotta
front.
understand that every
Well,
time that we
took
try
a
to
lot
speak,
in front tonight.
he interrupts.
well, every meeting, not every meeting goes
Because
this
it's
way.
45 minutes on
And there's a
something that
game.
should have taken
Come on, Matt, let's
5.
go. Let's go. Come on,
Wait a
we have
minute,
game
what's that
going.
got to do with me, though? I mean,
Come on.
I said, I prefaced it by saying there's not going to be a debate on what our consulting engineer has observed or our
I
planner,
wasn't trying to debate
and
it.
now we've been debating it,
Well,
point by
why don't we just,
point.
why don't we
that's-
just like
Yeah.
take on, because this is not gonna go anywhere else tonight.
Thank you.
We can discuss starting
discuss it, yeah.
tomorrow. But it's really gonna be on to you to start thinking, get with your other partner and look at those items and put them in priority and think of it in terms of financial priority and what you can do and how long it would take you to do it, and then come back,
And
come back
what-
with next time with a plan.
And what's more important versus less important?
Yeah,
That's part of
exactly,
it,
so
too,
that there can be so we can like have a plan and everybody agree at the next meeting on a plan. And so I can start with you working on that, starting tomorrow if you want.
Yeah, I'll send my wife over, she'll come up with a list.
Okay.
But in terms of opening up the store, when do you see that happening for
Well,
us?
the earliest would be after the next meeting, so it won't happen for 2 weeks, I mean, at best. I guess, unless there was a,
Special meeting.
I don't mind meeting next week if it helps you open your business.
That would
I'd
be
appreciate
wonderful.
that. Yeah,
That would be
I'd like to
so
do that the
kind.
sooner the better. The sooner the better. That would be
I don't know
normal.
about it, how other people feel.
No, it's up to me to call the meeting and work with Kirk. I'll see what's done first before I commit to that. In addition to that, can you please address, and I think Scott will know, and again, if you need any help, I don't know if you have any engineer anymore. Do you have a civil engineer, anyone who can consult in terms of getting water away from the neighbor?
No.
Well, Mr. Graham mentioned that water could be captured and brought into your system. Because stormwater management is also something that's required under state law and federal law.
But that should,
Is that old construction or is
no,
that
can I-
new construction?
that shouldn't hold up the yogurt.
Not necessarily, but I'm just, I'm
Right,
not saying,
okay.
but I'm just saying, also, I want to make sure, when this board takes seriously when we have someone calling the office with an issue, and that issue, part of the stormwater management permit is that you don't dump water on adjacent property. Your own water and your own property should be captured and dealt with appropriately. So.
But that's more of a long-term.
It is, but part of the O and M manual.
Thank you
but
for
it's all-
understanding that, because,
Yeah,
we
but-
bought the building with that drainage problem.
But that's part of investment, I go through this, and yet the O and M is an operations and maintenance manual once you get those catch basins done. Okay, that's a yearly thing you should be submitting to the department or the Conservation Commission to show that there's been some maintenance. But they haven't even been done yet, so we can't really O and M.
Come on, Max, let's go.
So, okay, thanks.
Thank you so much.
We'll
Thanks
try
for
to,
coming tomorrow. Thank you
If we
so
can meet
much.
next week, if that would help,
That would be wonderful.
we're volunteers, but we'll do it.
Thank you.
Anytime, I'll be here.
John, please.
You have to advertise the meeting now.
Yeah, it's not a public hearing.
Yeah, it's basically just that the board agrees to make the recommendation to the building.
But we definitely want to make sure that they have something to bring to us.
Yeah, right, that's right.
So, like, they don't have to work over the weekend.
Right.
John, hopefully this will be more efficient.
Yeah, otherwise you just don't want to go through this again.
I would say try to capture the additional items, down the road, but try to capture them.
That entranceway really has always bothered me, and the first time I saw it
That
mentioned
was
was,
a good point.
I mean, I've been there on a snowy night, and boy, I've almost been the guy that wiped that thing out. So anyhow,
What are you talking about, going south on Route 1 or?
coming north on Route 1, turning into that parking lot, it's just not very clear, there's two, there's
Oh,
in
okay.
and out traffic there, yet there's that guardrail
And
divider, and that's,
and that kind of striping, that safety striping can't be faded, that has to be clear.
Right.
The in and out striping. I think the lighting as well is important in that parking lot. John, okay?
Good evening. For the record, my name is John Moore, and I work for the Moore and Cameron Group. We're here tonight representing Charles Construction for the property known as Raleigh Village Green. As you know, the board approved this project back in 2010, and we're here to discuss a couple minor modification requests with the board. We haven't submitted a formalized plan yet. I did submit some information to Larry. Larry, I said, you should probably bring it before the board, get their input on it, and then go from there. What we're looking at, first thing is, when we went out to do the as-built of the sewer located that was installed for the property, they installed the sewer at the end of the cul-de-sac a little closer to Building 7 than what was shown on the approved plan. Because of that, if we put Building 7 where it is, it's going to hit the very edge of the sewer line.
So basically the drainage line.
The sewer line running over to the septic
Oh, the
tank.
sewer?
Yep. So
No
what,
kidding, man. All right.
what we're requesting to do is modify Building 7 by pushing it back about 5 to 6 feet. We're not proposing to move the limit of work line at all. We're proposing to leave that right where it is. Based on that unit, it is a walkout basement. Our client isn't interested. He doesn't care that he's going to lose 5 or 6 feet of the rear yard for those units. So really, the whole intent is nothing more than to just shift that building straight back about 5 to 6 feet. That way, we don't have to move the sewer manhole out on the. Actually, we'd have to move one sewer manhole. We'd extend it out and then tie back into the septic tank in a different direction.
So was it just put in the wrong place? I'm just curious.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Why can't it be moved?
It can be moved. It's just a lot of work. And the one issue that I have with it, they're already at minimum slope on these sewer lines, and I don't want to make them any flatter. And as soon as we move that sewer manhole, it's going to extend the lengths of those lines and cause that slope to be even shallower.
Why can't it be put in its appropriate place?
They could. They would have to come back all the way back and chase the sewer roughly all the way back to here.
Larry, what do you
Is that
think?
where the mistake?
I have no issue with the proposal. These things happen, and to move it 5 or feet or so back, I don't see any issue with it at all.
Yeah, it seems to me it
I don't see any
doesn't negatively affect the design of the development at all. in contrast with the next
That's
issue.
it's the last one, and plus it's the.
It's the last one in, it's just moving it back against the woods, there are no people
Right.
living back there. so.
And again, the
The
limit
limit
of
of
work
work
line's
doesn't
gonna
change.
stay the
Right.
same. The limit of work
I
line isn't
have no
changing.
problem with that.
Does the board members have any trouble with this?
No, I don't have any trouble with it, I just don't like errors out in the field, and neither do
Neither
you.
do we, well, we also got a street light they have to move, because it's in the middle of a driveway. But,
You know,
It seems like it would be a waste of money, though.
Okay.
No, because you do, chasing it all the way back is ridiculous.
Well, and that we did look at moving the sewer, and that was the issue, is we have to chase it all the way back to another sewer manhole, back in this vicinity.
So that's where the error goes to, it's all the way back.
Yeah, because that's built, but the building isn't. So that's-
Correct.
So
Right.
that's the key. If something isn't built, it's easy to change.
Right.
It doesn't change anything as far as buffer zone or any of that other stuff.
No, the only thing it will do is we'll add about 360 square feet of additional pavement, because obviously now these driveways will be
Right, so longer.
slightly longer. But looking at the drainage calculations, 360 square
this whole-
feet on this whole property isn't gonna have an impact on the
Point zero
drainage.
zero zero zero.
Right, it's negligible, it wouldn't even show up in the calculations. And the other reason we're here is, as part of the approval, the original approval approved 5 single-stall garages. And our client would like to change, one of these duplex units is out of the 5, one of them is this duplex unit. The building's exactly the same, but it's got a single-stall garage. So we'd like to propose to change that back to a 2-stall garage. Again, you would have an increase in...
What do you mean, change it back?
Well, I mean, change it to a 2-stall
Right.
garage, because originally it was approved as a 1-stall.
Right,
So you're looking at about 250 square feet
right.
of
For those-
additional impervious.
Chris, I don't think you were here at the time,
No.
and you weren't either, John,
Right.
right? We spent a lot of time talking about garages, and it was a very deliberate decision to have 5 of those be single stall. And in my mind, the reason was, number one, we wanted to preserve some open space between the units, because, you know, it's a pretty dense project, and if you drive down there today like I did tonight, it's got a pretty dense feel to it. And also, again, in my mind, I was leery about the garages overwhelming the units. There'd be so many, and there would be out in front of the units, and I think to some extent, it's true with what's on the ground there today. So it was a very deliberate decision. We spent a lot of time on this project.
Oh, you
I mean, we spent, what, a couple of years?
Yeah.
More than
I
more than
remember
should.
talking about trying to get the garages not to be entered straight off.
Yeah, right, there was a lot of
But
discussion
then
on it.
This was a constrained site for the
And
number
so-
of units he wanted, but
Yeah.
there was a compromise, both architecturally as well as numbers. So it was all became a compromise.
Yeah, and so the original applicant, I believe, sold the permit to
Correct.
your current client, but your current client knew it was approved when
Yes.
he bought it. He knew there were 5 single-stall garages.
And why does he want a
So-
double?
Well, just because the structure's the exact same size, and all the other duplex units are all double. So,
Can have my garage, oh, that's right, I don't have
I don't know.
them.
They're very close. And plus, you know,
What does that do?
it'll
It
just
makes it
add,
closer, how many feet?
you end up
Another 10 feet?
about another 9 foot wide for
9
the
foot.
driveway
At least
width.
9, plus the wall.
But the area for the garage is coming out of the existing structure as it stands now. Is that true?
Say that again?
John, do
The
they go
area,
on-
we're not enlarging the structure.
No, the structure, either way, 2-stall, 1-stall, the garage is still the same size. It's just it would have a 1-stall door on it instead of 2-stall door.
the size of the
Architectural-
garage isn't changing?
No, the duplexes on these plans are all the same sizes.
You just have more space in the
So
garage
what's
once
the-
you go in the door.
I guess I don't understand.
That just
The
went from-
the area of the garage is the same.
Based on the footprints that are on the approved plan, the footprint of all the duplex buildings are the exact same size. So even though this one duplex has got a single stall door, the duplex itself didn't get any short, it
So-
didn't get any less narrow. It's the same width as the other duplexes.
So do you have a wider garage in those units or a bigger living area?
Yeah.
The way the floor plans are written is the garage is the same size, it's just a smaller door and they frame around it, so you just see a smaller door on the front.
So one has more
Oh.
storage and one squeezes two cars in it.
So-
So it's just a matter of the door, it's not the.
Pretty much. Well, it's
pretty
the
much.
matter of the door and
The
the pavement
driveway.
in front, exactly, the driveway coming up to it.
So it doesn't do anything to affect.
I mean, again,
The view line,
again,
sight lines.
the architect, it was an aesthetic issue, right, David? Correct me
Yes.
if I'm wrong, and we asked,
We had a big discussion.
we had a big discussion about that, and you know, we spent so much time in this project, and I think,
But that's like, I mean, is it a marketing thing? These things are selling now, right?
Yeah, they're actually moving pretty well. It's just based on all the other duplexes are two-stall garages. And
It's a duplex, I mean,
you know, we.
it doesn't change the size.
The other thing is, if we approve it for one, the other people are gonna be coming in for similar approvals. I say stick with the design, we spent a lot of time on it, I think it's a pretty good design. And there were compromises on both sides, believe me, we compromised a lot.
Yeah, but
So I'm opposed to any further alteration of the basic design.
Cliff makes a good point in terms of, how many duplexes have singles now, John? I think,
I don't,
I can see them just by looking at them.
just the one.
One of the things, what we didn't want was, as you were driving down the road looking at the facades of all the buildings, we didn't want it to seem like it was one garage door after another.
Mhm.
Some of these developments end up looking that way, and to a certain extent, this one does, as it's built now. So that's the reason why that compromise was made, and, you know,
I know, you
Personally, I
agonized
I
on
wanted-
how to get them in a different way, you know?
personally, we wanted side entry garages, we wanted more single garages, and we had, you know, it was a back and forth with the developer, and this was a compromise. So I feel like we're being asked to give up something that we bargained for, and, you know, this is not the place for it. That should have been done
Yeah.
during the initial permitting process.
And you can see we only were able to achieve a few side garages in the
Yeah,
beginning first.
Right,
Aesthetics in the.
because the developer wanted to squeeze in quite a few units, which created that problem.
Well, it also makes it worthwhile to build.
Well, yeah, but,
I'm saying the same thing.
yeah.
I think, yeah, if you get two
but I-
garage doors there, they get a more valuable building, and I think that may be driving the balance.
Right.
Exactly.
I am thinking what Cliff's saying here, and which is this has already been deliberated at length over a long period of time, so to you know, disregard that deliberation and make a decision today that modifies just a piece of it seems like contrary to what was done.
Definitely.
Inconsistent with what, you know, the process.
Is that the only, you saying that was the only duplex with a single?
Correct. Yeah, in the decision, the board did give itself an out. I mean, they did state that it's condition 4, and it says 20 of the 25 proposed units shall have 2 car-attached garages, and 5 of the 25 proposed units shall have single car-attached garages unless otherwise approved by the planning board. So you did put the condition
Yeah, it's
in there
not
that you
hard
could
and
come back.
Yeah, well, you know,
If it doesn't change the footprint of the building.
that goes without saying. No, well, I don't know, I've stated my reasons for not going
Yeah, I
along.
mean, I definitely, if there was any wider or less open space between buildings, it would be a definitive no in my mind.
It's a wider driveway.
But this, the developer
By how much?
bought the development based on.
Yeah, he bought the
this.
plans,
Yeah.
so, you know, it's
I
not
think
like he wasn't
this
warned.
is
So
what
we
Okay.
just went through
Leave it.
this, they bought the, we just went through it on the other one.
Do you want to vote on these things separately?
I'll make a motion to approve the first modification.
Yeah, they should be separate.
Did you see the decision, John?
Yeah, I would like to see it, that's a good, that would, it should be separate.
Yeah, just to move it along. So,
I'll make a motion to approve the additional setback for, was it building
Can I
7?
have a
Yes.
second, I have a second.
I'll second that.
Okay, anybody.
Yeah, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Good, so that's 4-0. Steve Cassiotis is absent, but we have a quorum. Because you're
I just got sworn in.
You did.
Tired of sitting around here for no reason.
It's
Now
a
you can
difference.
vote on
Now you're-
everything too. You don't have to vote on something.
Barring any further discussion or any other input from John, do you want to make? I mean, Cliff has a strong opinion. Mine isn't as strong, but I mean, I see both
agree-
sides. I see both
agree with
sides.
Cliff Because of all the discussion I had on this.
I don't think it's going to make or break the whole thing.
No.
You have any-
No, I mean, I know how long to vote, so I'm not gonna move for it.
Me neither.
I mean, I'm for him selling and doing a good job and getting.
I make a motion that what?
Oh, go ahead.
But, yeah, good, Larry, I forgot.
No, I reread this and I think I remember what Cliff is saying in that debate, but I think there was also some feeling that you wanted to be sure or try to get as many cars off of the road, in the garages, out of the driveways as possible.
Yeah, there's not much guesswork
And,
in it.
and that's why 20 of the 25 were to have two-car garages. And I remember we tried to get as many side loading garages as possible.
That's the constraints on this site
But-
compared to the country club.
You know, I think the advantage perhaps that you may be overlooking if you let them go to a two-car garage is that you get that car perhaps out of the driveway. There's no covenants that I know of that say you can't have a car in the driveway.
Yeah.
But if it's a two-car family, you've got a better chance of getting both cars off of the driveway, which makes a better looking development. So,
Right,
in
the
that
cars are
regard,
sitting outside.
you know, I think their request has some merit, if you think about that.
Yeah, again, I guess I'm not
Oops,
saying,
I'm sorry.
I'm not saying it's totally without merit, but again, you know, I think we went through this process, had a lot of deliberations. This is the design that was approved, and I think we should stick with it.
All right, point taken. To get it out of the way, I'll make a motion to approve the the modification in the front to achieve a two-car garage by changing the door. And with the knowledge that the footprint of the duplex is the same as approved in the plan.
Second.
All's in favor? All's opposed?
Aye.
Abstentions? I made the motion, so I abstain.
Well, 1 out of 2 is not bad.
Remind your owners, they still have a.
I need a motion.
For what?
Oh, and deny is the same as.
Yeah.
Okay, that's the same, okay.
Remind your owners that they still have a fence issue with historic.
Oh, you're gonna start now?
You're right.
Well, that's,
It's the time to do
no,
it.
it's 1 out of 3.
Well, they're gonna come for some certificate of occupancies and, you know, we want a positive meeting.
OP, COs.
Yeah.
or-
Have they-
COs
They've got a
are,
letter from them?
I don't know that they know of the issue.
Okay.
Yes, this never was approved by historic, plastic fence.
I remember that.
You know what, I didn't agree with that motion for the reason that you guys did do all that work back then. I mean, even the information that Larry provided now about the fact that it takes a car off the street does make a lot of sense, but I know a lot of thought went into that, so I think it's important to try to.
Well, we got a lot of cars off the street.
Right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, John.
I mean, that's why we allowed the.
And John,
20
thanks for,
two-car garages, you know.
Meeting with Kirk and
What do we got next?
today with
Oh, yeah.
Peter Ogren. If there's any roadmap out of that, so to speak,
Well, I mean, not to go
I
off
would-
track, but hopefully this will get that moving in a positive direction.
that would be great.
So we'll see.
Getting somebody who can maybe bear some influence at the state level and get things moving.
Well, if they do it the right way, they could get to a point where they have that appeal removed and the whole thing just goes away.
Which is probably what they want to
That's
have.
exactly what, hopefully,
That's what they want to
Yes.
have, if certain prerequisites get done. But thanks for meeting with Kirk.
Yep.
You changed the name of your company, John?
yes,
What, more than what?
Cameron. Scott Cameron used to work for McKenzie.
Okay.
Engineer.
Name sounds familiar.
Yeah, I brought him, he came on as a partner, he's my partner now.
All right,
Congratulations.
Thank you.
thanks a
Good
lot,
night.
take care, man.
Good night.
You recommend that Hawksworth Estate surety get extended?
I do.
All right, can I have a motion?
Would we extend the Hawksworth Estate surety for another 12 months?
Can I have a second? Wait, I have a short discussion on that for sake of explanation.
It's more of a question than a.
Well, I guess Kirk is working, this is another one that needs to get approved in the next town meeting. And there's a few things that need to be done, but certainly this deadline is, it's upon us, right? Just about.
Yeah, it was the end of this month. What is the form of the surety?
20th.
Tripartite.
It was a, you put it down as bond, but it's a tripartite.
They say, it's a tripartite.
And do we have a new tripartite agreement from the bank?
No, I have actually talked to Dave Clark, and he said he probably wouldn't be able to get it by tonight,
We can't
but
take
that
it.
he's actually working to get that. You know, I've been trying to call him.
Oh, I didn't know that, we didn't have that, I thought we had, okay, so we can't entertain that until we have that in hand.
Well,
We
you
can't,
probably ought to do it tonight.
what, still make, we can
Extend
extend it without the document?
Yeah, extend it if the document is.
Conditional.
Subject
Yeah,
to.
subject to
You
the
make the
document
motion,
showing
you're
up.
allowed.
Okay, well, do we have the tri-party agreement in here?
The previous tripartite agreement.
Yeah, sure, that's what I mean, I'm sorry.
But that was the most recent.
Alright, so just make a motion regarding conditional.
Then, I move that the board extend the surety, the tripartite agreement between the developer and its lender and the board for 12 months, subject to the creditor, the bank, putting together a new tripartite agreement and signing it and presenting it to the board at the next meeting
Yeah.
for signature.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, thanks for this. All right, I think you've had in your possession, Larry, you're off those now. Thank you so much.
I just want-
Rose, you want-
Watch the clock drop.
all right.
It's not a game.
Can't wait to get home. Good.
Is there a game tonight?
What was it, baseball?
Yes, I think
There is a
rugby.
baseball.
Figure skating, isn't it?
Equestrian match.
Jacket tonight. Good night,
See you
guys.
later.
Good night, take care, thanks.
Take care.
Thank you very much. I think you've had in your possession, you know, the memo stating, what is it from?
2-0.
Oh,
Okay.
Well, Kirk, do you want to, I mean, that, let's see if I can grab it here.
Tower.
The public notice that is dated January, well, it's a year old. It's a little over a year old. Basically what it says, if the, you don't substantially change the dimensions or the base appurtenances of the base facilities on a cell tower, but you want to co-locate or switch out equipment or upgrade equipment that said applicant representing these utilities don't have to go through site plan review.
well, it doesn't really say that.
Well-
It says that we can't deny it.
Well, that's right, it does says we can't deny it even if we take control of it, that's
You're
what, I
obligated.
should have said that.
Municipal obligated to
Yeah,
approve.
Yeah, but, so that's, could be different.
yeah.
Yeah, I was looking at some, around the country, how different localities have dealt with it. There was actually an mention that it doesn't necessarily prohibit, requiring an application. You-
Right.
But of course, it leads to the point, well, if you have them submit an application, go through a process, you have to say yes.
Yeah,
Yeah,
right,
but
and
it's-
especially a public hearing, which with all the notice requirements.
And there are some definitions here, that I just want to bring it to people's attention if you do wish to get some more insight and definitions. There are definitions on this public notice. Did this originally come from you?
I'm not sure, I think I saw, no, I think I actually saw the legislation.
Yeah, you saw it. Well, this obviously is a cited summary of the legislation with all of its,
Yeah, the appendix
But-
actually has the legislation, right?
I'll just make a suggestion as to how we deal with this, now that this law is in effect, and we could have the applicant come into the board meeting, not at a public hearing, but an informal meeting, just explain what he's doing, and if he can assure us that he's not changing the physical dimensions at all, we would vote not to require a site plan review, and that would be the end of it.
you want to trust, the building inspector has to sign off, as well as the selectmen have to sign off, because this is one of the ones that.
Not town property.
Yeah, this is one of the ones that is, the town leases it to them, in this case Sprint.
All right.
And, as you know, it used to be that one company would own these towers, now they have an intermediary and they all kind of use the same tower.
Mhm.
However, they make financial agreements amongst themselves. But the town stands to, you know, continue to have a long-term lease. There is, this SBA has written to the selectmen May 13th. It was only yesterday.
I think that was in response to me, though.
Asking for information.
Yeah.
And the work calls for 3 or newer, I mean, anyways, this is an explanation of what they're doing, from Kim Pelletier from SBA Communications Corp. I
Who
think they've been in front of us before.
would have been willing to be here. She submitted this in lieu of actually being here tonight. I told her it was okay.
Okay.
So this could be.
On this
potentially-
this particular one, the selectmen want a memo from us so they can vote on Monday, again, which would free up them to get a building permit from. But they're not, you know,
Doesn't look like they're proposing anything that would extend it by more than 10%, the height by more than 10%.
not at
right?
all.
No, no,
Yeah,
The antennas added to existing pipe alongside the existing antennas.
right.
Third-party structural analysis provided assures that the installation will meet safety, tower weight, wind load, etc.
Yeah, are you looking at that handout I gave on the, yeah, that's
Yeah.
it.
Which obviously is a concern not only to us, but the building department. They don't want something to blow up and hurt somebody.
And they're not going to be doing any
Uh,
excavating
even
or
though-
engineering.
Even though it's on Smith's Lane, so, but it could be a hiker. Page, construction drawings show the existing antenna plan proposed. Installation of a growth cabinet with 2.5 radio access network equipment. The new cabinet would house the new 4G radio equipment. They're not expanding the pad. They're not doing anything with the fence. They're not. It would be placed in an existing concrete pad alongside Sprint's existing cabinets. Page A1 of the, shows the location level. So basically, it's 3 newer technology antennas, and this is like one of the cases that the law was kind of designed for, you know. But I agree with Cliff in that, you know, in general, I don't think it's. In fact, I even suggested, I think that we suggested it to them. They just didn't really know exactly what they were going to do. This has been kind of ruminating around that, you know, there was a memo
Yeah.
saying from them, but I don't think, just saying, hey, you know, give us a building permit. And the building department knows we have a bylaw. And said, no, it doesn't work like that, you know, you need to go through a process.
Yeah, the bylaw requires it to come in, but now we
Process.
can't deny it, so.
So basically, what do you want to direct Kirk to write to the selectmen for Monday night? Or do you want to ask them?
I mean,
Or do you want to ask them to come in the next meeting and have the selectmen defer? It's either we give the selectmen guidance that it could be approved, you know, from their end.
I mean, can we make the recommendation conditioned upon the as-built being consistent with the memo? I mean, obviously that's their intention, but,
That's a very good idea.
you know, I understand what you're saying. It would be nice if they were to come in here and give us some plans and show us exactly what they're gonna be doing. But I also get Kurt's point that he more or less advised them it's not necessary, because in fact, it wasn't, you know, and I don't wanna leave the town selectmen up in the air, not knowing what to
Right.
do.
Yeah, I mean, I go along with that, but going forward, I think I'd be more comfortable having a brief meeting where an engineer actually stands up and says, this is what we're doing.
Oh, yeah, no argument here, I'm totally for it.
Is that for future application?
Right, well,
In this case, you're saying.
Yeah,
Yeah.
in this case,
It's
because.
worked well in the past, and I don't see why it can't.
And because they did submit based on your, I would've had trouble tonight, I asked you when we were talking on the phone, that I wanted more detail, and they did submit it. So
Yeah, that's what that letter was.
I just don't want anecdotal people just saying, oh, I want to, you know, that's not. professional.
Right, it's no big deal.
That's not an engineered presentation. But this is enough for me to, on this one. And I think in the future, we can be careful. I think that the bylaw does not preclude us going through the process when someone wants to change the appearance of a tower or relocate a tower, the whole tower,
Oh,
or
definitely.
want to add to it. I mean,
Mhm.
our bylaw is in place for good reason.
Right.
The good thing about Smith Lane's tower that this one is that I think it's a great kind of, it's out of sight of anyone, really.
Yeah,
It doesn't
given,
bother me.
I've never seen it, I
Yeah.
guess that's true. Where's Smith Lane?
And it's next to behind Aris Ball Field.
Oh, okay.
If you driving north on Route 1, like if you're at Yankee Village, if you turn your
Gotcha.
direction to the left, you'll catch a glimpse
Is
of
that
it.
right?
Yeah, I was gonna say, you can't even see this tower from
But-
Hazel
but,
Street or.
Uh-huh.
Watch the oncoming traffic though.
Right, yeah, right.
And it's funny, you really, and many times you can't even see the one on the hill, but
Right.
it's clearly seen from Ipswich or from the ocean almost. It's funny, from
Yeah.
that side you see it, but
Newburyport,
from the,
yeah.
yeah, Newbury. Isn't it from certain sight lines, it's
Yeah.
easily
Yeah, right.
visible?
Yeah.
All right, that's it. So I just need a vote to approve this installation of these
I make a motion,
these three upgrades by Sprint on this tower and give the selectmen guidance by a memo by Kirk. So that's all, just that he.
Well, our vote should be that they don't have to go through site
That's
plan
it, yeah.
review.
that-
Right.
yeah.
Did you make that motion?
Well, and I suggested I was trying to form what would be something that would be acceptable, but I think that's it. We moved to recommend to the Board of Selectmen that they can proceed without site plan review, provided and conditioned upon their as-built being consistent with and not expanding on what's outlined in this memo.
Right, because obviously the building inspector would have to give them a CO as well.
Yeah, second.
Those in favor?
Aye.
Thanks, that's a good, that gets it for Kirk, for the file.
Yeah, right.
Minutes? No, I think part of it is also that, you know, the building inspector just wants guidance too, that people come in and start asking him, you know, for a building permit, and he doesn't know in some cases to give it, some cases not to. But I think we're kind of settling in on, you know, what constitutes a dimensional change and what doesn't. And I think co-location or you know, if it doesn't change the 10%, or,
Mhm.
I think we need to stay within those definitions. That's it.
Mhm.
Is that all right, to just stay within the definitions of the?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
And furthermore, you can see how that actually does create new jobs. Now, when it was first proposed, we said, well, how is this tax relief? But it sort of makes sense that there's something to it, you know?
Oh, yeah. Well,
Well, yeah, remember we used to get a lesson from meeting after meeting on, you know, on cell towers?
yeah, right.
And your eyes would glaze over.
Yeah, really.
Remember that?
my lessons,
It's kind of interesting, but, remember the maps?
I was holding my phone out there, seeing if I could get a good signal.
No, when they're erecting a new tower, it's very important that they go through the public hearing process. So when you're just changing the antenna, it's
Well,
really,
you know, at some
Technology changes
point,
so
yeah, I know.
at some point, some of these towers are gonna get overloaded with antennas.
Right.
Does anybody else need minutes?
Potentially
You would
over.
think
I
so.
think I have.
Where does-
Anybody else need minutes from the 26th of February?
My minutes.
I can't vote on this one. I wasn't here.
You know, if a meeting,
Says I wasn't here.
do you want to do them both, or want to just knock one down? People want to go home?
I don't have the second
I
one.
actually, I was intending to get you the March 19th.
No, no one has the second one.
Yeah,
No
nobody
one has
has
the
it.
second
They don't?
because
I have, it was on your,
It was on the agenda with the intent of actually, and then like, I left on Monday, and I thought it was too late by Wednesday to send it, so. I usually,
Now, what was someone, no, there was something in the packet.
no, there was February 26th.
Well, I haven't read it anyway, so.
Oh, there was the
I'd rather
26th.
Wait until the next
Yeah.
day.
Okay, yeah, 26, you only read the 26?
I make a
No,
motion.
I've read the 26th.
Oh, okay.
Can I suggest a change or two?
Let's go for it.
The first item, the 7:30 discussion on Ipswich Bay Glass.
Remember, we already changed this once,
Well, we made.
because he added the zoning on, in it for you.
Right. There's a statement by me that the public hearing is required whenever a modification to a site plan is required. I would change, yeah, put significant in front of, or major, significant before the word modification.
I don't, I want to just strike it,
Strike what?
the whole thing.
This
I don't
was,
think it's,
this
I think we're taking on a case-by-case basis.
Strike the whole sentence, you mean?
Yeah,
You should show me which one.
why is that relevant now?
Well, I don't know.
Err on the side of caution is one of those ambiguous kind of statements, you know. One person's caution is another person's, you know.
Well, I don't care whether it's in or out, I was just, also you need an is after hearing where a public hearing is concerned.
No,
I don't care if you take it
Mr.
out.
Patrick, I mean, made a decision on his own to go through, which we're very open to, informal discussions. You know, and at that point, we directed them and said, hey, man, you have to,
This is big enough to be a public hearing.
yeah, that's all, yeah.
So you
So-
want to strike.
It's a case, yeah, I don't, this err on the caution, I mean, I think we're past that now.
Okay.
Okay, next comment
I
is,
don't wanna see this kind of juxtaposition between major and minor anymore.
Okay.
on page 3,
Case by case.
Heard enough of it, huh?
on page 3, where it starts, underneath the second note where it starts in regard to Article 2, it says Pierce questions whether the legal advertisement was sufficient. I just wanted to add why I was questioning that,
Okay.
and just add at the end of that sentence, because it did not,
Right here, Cliff?
no, the page 3?
You gotta imagine, you're killing me.
Yeah, I know, yeah, put page numbers on you.
You're killing me.
Yeah, it would make it a lot easier.
Just see.
Not on that page.
Where's that?
Do you have the old copy?
Yeah, you must have the old
You have the
one.
old one.
It's E, it should be E.
So, I just want to say at the end of that sentence, because it did not
I gave you my copy.
reference where
I gave you
the,
mine.
where the proposed maps could be inspected.
Okay.
No, I gave you mine.
And then finally, on the last page, the second full paragraph says Bryant then raises the issue of releasing the tripartite agreement. And I think we were renewing the tripartite agreement, not releasing.
I don't really have that power to release any tripartite agreements.
Well, we could, but it would be an advisable thing to do.
No, it's over Steve's dead body.
That's all. Are we adjourned?
You all set? Did you get those
Voted.
changes?
Yeah, I got the change.
There's
Do
a
you
game
want
on, you
to
know.
approve the minutes and not just make the
Someone-
changes and post them? Or
Yeah.
is that
Just a
okay?
motion
So
to,
we had two-
a motion to approve the minutes with the changes, please?
Oh, I'll make the motion to approve the minutes.
Can I have a
And
second?
I'll second it.
I
All
can't
this-
vote because I wasn't here.
All
All those
right.
in favor, but we
Aye.
still have a quorum to get. Okay, they're approved with a 3-0.
I make a motion.
There's
to
a
adjourn.
there's a recusal that you weren't,
I wasn't
an
at the meeting.
abstention because he wasn't there.
Okay.
Can I make a motion that we adjourn the meeting?
Do you need anything signed?
Yeah, yeah.
Don't make me come down to your place
You
tomorrow.
know, I had we had a moment to talk about something generally. I got a call from a neighbor the other day that said that she's discovered as a result of the blasting, the connections to her gunite pool have severed and she's losing water out the side of her pool.
Last thing where?
At the country club.
Oh, I wanna, can I just get, and without getting into the discussion, there's different ways of thinking about this. Under law that Kirk's, isn't it true, your research said pretty much it's the state jurisdiction over the developer's.
There's a
licensing.
state, yeah, there's
State
state law
statute
over blast.
Governing that, so it could be an
Absolutely.
assurance issue
Governs
between
blasting.
the developer and, so we don't really intercede or intervene in it.
Right.
However, Kirk brought up a good point, being the liaison between the public and us. That whether or not this board does want to get involved as an advocate for the neighbor or in any capacity. And I'm opening that up quickly.
Well, frankly, she called me because, not because my relationship with the planning board, I think she was unaware of it. She called me because we have a mutual friend and she thought that.
Well, that's why I'm bringing it up.
Yeah.
I think it's.
I don't think, I didn't suggest that the board could give her any.
Well, no, but Kirk and I have already discussed this.
Yeah,
Yeah, she's
okay.
actually called me.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Okay,
we,
good.
you know, behind the scenes, there's stuff that,
Yep.
you know, so
Yeah, my impression is it's all regulated by state law, and
Mhm.
you just said we have
there was
nothing to do
there
with
was
it.
nothing in our permit about blasting.
Yeah, there's
No.
nothing about permitting
No.
or blasting. I mean, maybe
No.
some localities like include stuff about obtaining a blasting plan, but
No.
if you do, then what would you do with it? I mean, who's
Who's going to enforce it? Not the-
yeah, who's going
Right.
to be enforcing it? I mean,
You're an architect, you would probably
The
know
planner
about
can't.
these
I
things.
mean, so
It's-
it suggests to me that it's not really something we should get
It's
it's already being
Right.
regulated by
There's
the
been on
state,
sites where
so
they're
it's up to
blasting,
the
right?
state.
Yeah.
Over the year, and
You know,
Is
they're
it something
required to
happened?
do
What
the
happened?
laws.
Does the statute govern like the blasting schedule, limit the time?
All
Yeah.
that's included
All
as
that's,
part of the
and
blasting.
notice to the
Yeah.
people in the blast radius and
Yeah,
all
the
that.
blasting company has to, they have to have a plan.
Right.
Pre-blast survey.
Yeah, and all that's taken care of as part of that, so, but they have legal recourse through the court system.
Right.
I mean, they don't need the town to be,
No.
Absolutely, and that's why I said they should get in touch with the insurance carrier for
Yeah.
the blasting company.
Usually they're pretty quick, because that's the quickest way to
The
solve
one, the one comment that I did think was worth bringing to the board was when she spoke to Ralph about it, he said, sue me. Didn't seem like how he's presented himself to the board in the past relative to his impact on the neighborhood. So,
Which Ralph?
To Giorgio.
To Giorgio, yeah.
I don't know, Miola. Well,
He's the site manager.
I don't think you need to sue, but I mean, that's not appropriate, I mean, I.
No,
I-
right.
so whatever this, whatever.
Guess that could be misinterpreted.
Again, unless you're there and know exactly what was said.
Yeah.
I think a good example is, unless you're there.
So, back to your motion to adjourn?
Yeah,
Oh, we gotta sign some.
anything else, is that it?
Yeah, that's it.
All right, motion to adjourn,
I'll make the motion, I'll second the motion that David.
all in favor?
I mean,
Thank you, I appreciate everybody's input.